Hey, welcome back. You're watching the final part of this series where I'm finishing up this dagger with this ironwood handle. And I mentioned the last video that I was hoping to catch up the other two knives so I can finish them all at once in this video, but sadly that's not the case. I'm just going to be doing this knife. I just didn't have the time to catch those other two knives back up, and I didn't want to delay this video any further. So what I've done so far in this handle is profile grind that shape in. Everything is up to a 320 or a 600 grit finish on the wood and the sides of the guard. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is take that height gauge to it and scribe out some center lines so we can start faceting the handle. hope that you enjoyed watching that knife being made. I really especially like how the end of the handle turned out. It's always super cool when you do facets to see all of the different shapes that can really come out of the knife depending on where you grind it, how deep you grind it, and whatnot. I've learned so much from this knife alone than I have in any other knife in such a long time, and that's simply because it's a straight dagger, and that is like no other knife that I've ever made before. And I gotta admit, the knife is nowhere near perfect. The biggest flaw in the dagger is that it's not perfectly symmetrical. It's so close, and when you look at it, it almost looks like it could be an optical illusion, you know, but just the smallest bits here and there that your eyeballs just can't, you can't eyeball the shape of a dagger. And I messed up in the beginning from the start because I did not make this knife with a template. What you're supposed to do with the dagger, the sense I've learned after I started, is that you just draw half of the dagger, you copy that on your printer, you cut it out, and you flip it over, and you glue them together. Now you've got a perfectly symmetrical dagger from the one half that you drew, and then of course you draw that onto your piece of steel and go from there. What I did was just simply I tried to eyeball a perfectly symmetrical shape, which was incredibly stupid. Making a dagger like this is like, it's not like making other knives. Typically when I go to make a knife, say it's a kukri, say it's a hunting knife, say it's a chef's knife, it's all pretty much the same thing. I mean, they're different, but you're making a knife is making a knife. Making a dagger is kind of different set of steps. It's a different thing than making other knives. And so making this dagger has kind of shown me a different way of making knives, one that I want to do more of, one that I want to get better at. And I realized that this thing was doomed from the start, way back in like part 3, I think, when I started hand sanding. On a symmetrical dagger like this, having a template from the start is just so critical. If you don't get those first 1 or 2 steps done right, then the whole knife is flawed from the start. There's really no changing that. But instead of abandoning the project and abandoning this video series and also abandoning the learning experience, I figured I would just stick it out and finish the dagger out, you know, and see how it turns out. And it's not that critical, that bad, but you know, it's not perfect. It's never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna be symmetrical because I didn't start with a template. I've made Chris daggers in the past which are on their own like a different type of difficulty. With the Chris dagger, it's difficult to grind and to hand sand simply because it's got all the curves. You're grinding like a 5 recurve blade or whatever. But when you're doing a symmetrical dagger, it's a whole nother type of difficulty. I don't know if one is more difficult than the other. It's just a different type of difficulty. And that's something that I really need to practice on. So basically after finishing this knife, it's got me wanting to do it again. I like the design and I like the way that it came out overall, but I want to do one where I start with a template from the beginning and do it right all the way through. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below. That means a lot to me when I get those comments from you. And be sure to like it and share with your friends if you feel so inclined, and consider subscribing. I'll catch you next time.